Special thank you to Seed and Stone Cidery and Lucky Buzz Meadery for sponsoring the show today. They help to make this show possible and supply us with the occasional beverage when we're out there. They've got 10 taps full of meads and ciders made right there in-house. They've also got all sorts of awesome events going on, including an open mic almost every single Thursday where you can come out and show your musical talent. So all you songwriters out there, stop out and grab a cider or a mead and tell them that the Songwriters Couch and the Patrick Joanne Band sent you. Again, Seed and Stone Cidery right here in Rochester, New York. Go out and visit them and let them know we sent you. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, man. I messed up that 5 chord. I messed up that 5 chord.
That's all right. That's all right. You got one of those the bottleneck slides at home or no?
Well, this is actually a wine bottle top.
Oh, is it?
It is, yeah.
Did you cut it yourself? Or
no, a buddy of mine in Memphis actually cuts them.
Oh, Memphis.
Sends them to me every once in a while. Yeah.
So we'll start out the episode before we get into who this guy is that's sitting over here in about 30 seconds. We'll do that. But before we get started, I want to talk really quickly. We're on episode 5 of the podcast, and we've got David Miller here on the podcast. But before we get into you, David, we're going to talk about our sponsors. Lucky Buzz, which camera are we at? The main one there. Lucky Buzz Meadery, and we're actually drinking a couple of things here. You've got the orange creamsicle, I think it is, and I've got the Beats, what is it called? Beats something or other?
Beats Me?
That's probably what it is, yeah. Beats Me over here. So thank you to our sponsors, Lucky Buzz, and they're also Seed and Stone Cidery, so they make ciders too. Delicious, and go out there, check them out. I don't believe you can order them online, but hopefully that'll be coming soon. And on the show today, episode 5, we've got David Miller, blues aficionado, legend, local legend, and musician, coming straight from a show last night to the Songwriters Couch. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. So what do you think about the cider over there? Any good?
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, it's kind of drier than you would think. I would think with like beets it would be sweeter, but delicious.
This is sweet enough for me.
So you have a single out, right?
I have an album out.
The
last album, well, we've got 4 albums out, but the last album is called Rise.
Okay.
And that was kind of, it was the smartest thing that I could do to release that right in the middle of COVID.
Right. Are you saying that sarcastically, or are you saying that?
Absolutely.
All right.
100%. But, that was just the timing of everything and kind of what we ended up having to do.
Did you record it during quarantine?
No, we recorded it before. And just, kind of getting ready for putting out there all the promo and stuff. And of course, we had stuff planned, and then the unplanned happened. Yeah, that's kind of what happened to us, too. We had a whole album kind of semi in the works and whatever. And it was actually kind of cool because during it, we ended up doing a lot of remote stuff, which we didn't do before that, so we were sending stuff back and forth and recording like in our own houses and then sending it off to the master or to mastering and mixing and all that sort of thing. So did you record it like initially in a studio, or what was the... Yeah, Rise, we mostly recorded in 2 spots. At the time, I was part owner of a place called the DHU Strand Theater in North Tonawanda, New York, which was kind of like an old Nickelodeon movie theater that had been a lot of different things over the years, had been gutted and remodeled many times, but we made it into a little rehearsal hall, stage, a private venue kind of place, speakeasy kind of a vibe, right? And so I tracked a little bit of my Poison Sipped record there, and then tracked a little bit of the Rise record there, but also worked with my buddy out here, Brian Moore, who used to run.
Oh, Brian. Yeah, that's who. As a matter of fact, the first album we did during COVID, Mask, was Brian Moore. Did most of the mixing and mastering on that.
Listen, man, he is the dude.
Yeah.
And to this day, like, we're working on another record right now. That
his prices are showing that nowadays, though.
Oh, well, he's... and that new studio that he's got is just amazing. We just tracked some
I'll give him a shout-out. What's the name of it again? It's Tone Studios, I think it is,
Tone
right?
Studios,
right here in Rochester, New York. So, it's pretty great studio.
Oh, it's absolutely... Yeah, we just tracked some... for this new record, we just tracked some choir stuff there.
Oh, that's cool.
Take
note, he has access to a choir. So I'm going to need that for the next record. I'll be hitting you up,
gotcha.
David.
It was, Brian was great. So, I mean, he ended up mixing and mastering my first and my third album. Or excuse me, did I say that right? First and fourth. Well, he actually mixed the live album too. We did a live album.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's great at he's great at like the live sound. I know he's done some stuff for like Joywave when they were on Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. Every mix I've ever gotten back from him or master, it's magic what he does.
Yep, and I'd send him mixes right now because I'm trying to do everything myself for this new record, and I'm sending him stuff, and he's like, yeah, man, I think, you got to bring 80 hertz down a little bit on this and bump, 450K up on this a little bit. And then, hey, you maybe tighten that compressor on the snare just a little bit more. I mean, he just hears that like immediately. His ears are so amazing, and a wonderful human.
He's so calm too. I remember going into the studio, and this was maybe like 2 years, because I tracked the guitar and the vocals for that album like 2 years before. And I planned the album out and all this stuff. And then finally, when this iteration of my band was together, we finished it. But I remember him coming in, and after every take, him taking my guitar from me and tuning it for me to make sure it's up to his standard of being tuned.
His ears,
you know what I mean?
His ears are
pretty,
right on.
Pretty unbelievable. Right on. So you're working on a new album now too?
Yeah, working on a new album.
Is this breaking? Are we breaking the news?
Well, we haven't. We've talked about it at like our gigs and stuff. I haven't, and a little bit online, but we haven't really started the big hype yet. But we've got 14 tunes in the can. We're probably going to put 8 or 9 on the vinyl, and then we'll release a few other ones with the digital copies. But we tracked it all soup to nuts in my house, in our house studio, kind of like mine's not as fancy, but and actually one tune we actually are not going to put on the record, but we're going to release separately, was a tune that I wrote to honor Derek Campbell of the Campbell Brothers, who helped me with my first record. So I really recorded that first record with the Campbell Brothers quite a bit. The rhythm section, Carlton and Derek, and then Chuck and Derek, not Derek Bennett, the bass player, but Derek Campbell played lap steel and pedal steel. And awesome. And Derek, Pat, we lost him during COVID. And I wrote a song called "Teach Me to Slide." I even got Sonny Landreth to play on it, and Derek's understudy Terrell King on it. We've got the choir on that one too. And
I'm excited to hear it now.
It's
a good tease.
It's epic. It's epic.
When do you think that'll be ready to be put out?
We're trying to finish up some stuff. I'm hoping to get it out by Christmas. That's the goal at this point.
Are you going to put a Christmas song on there too?
No, heck no. No.
Jingle bells? No. It's a bluesy Christmas.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
No, I'm excited to hear it. So, is this your first time like getting a choir in there and that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, we did that on. I had some of the same gals participate on Poison Sip, the first record. But then, we literally did have a bigger choir on Sometimes You're Down. And what was on Rise, on the record Rise? Yeah. Sometimes You're Down, and maybe Rise too.
How many people were in the choir on that?
That was like maybe a 12-person choir, and then we just doubled it up.
So did you write the arrangement for it, or was it something that they helped kind of come up with?
No, I pretty much had the ideas of what I wanted, but I worked with that particular team, and then we just kind of modded it. Serena Young, Rena Williams. She goes by a couple different names, but Rena, she's just an amazing gospel singer out here, and she's was in BET's Sunday Best. She made it in the top 10.
Oh, wow.
You know, she's incredible, and she kind of helped put it together. And she's just got a great ear for harmonies. So if I say, "Well, I want a line that's kind of like," da, 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 you know,
yeah,
and she's like, da, 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 da,
right,
right,
and that's what would worry me about having a whole choir in there trying to direct everyone.
Well, and then I had Rufus McGee. So I don't know if you remember Rufus McGee Jr. He actually played, I think on my first Poison Sip record, he played some organ, but he helped actually direct. So we just kind of worked together. I came with the ideas, and then they made it happen.
Did you write most of the stuff in the studio, or was most of the songs already kind of?
Yeah, the songs were pretty much done. I didn't really write anything in the studio, and with this newest record, because the core of my band is we've been together for 4.5 years, but the way the albums came out, Steve, my keyboard player, was on them, but my drummer, Isaiah, wasn't, because I'd worked with the Campbells, and I'd worked with a couple other, drummers previously. So we wanted this to be us, not just me.
Yeah.
And so when we were in the studio, I brought the ideas, but then we kind of arranged them together. And there's definitely parts on some of the songs that like Steve wrote the bridge for, or
nice.
We worked out the percussion tracks, and Isaiah came up with the percussion arrangements and stuff. So
it always comes out so much more like dynamic when you got everyone's input in there. Do you primarily? I mean, it's called the name of your band is
Miller and the Other Sinners.
Yeah, Miller. So you're kind of the primary songwriter, I would imagine, for the most part. I have been anyway, right?
Yeah. And I still think that's probably the way it'll always be. But that being said, doing this album the way we did it, we kind of found a flow in the studio that works for us, and how we can get together and, I've got the gear in there. We can just sit down and start working. It's not set up for recording other people. It's just for us, you know. And so I'm actually really looking forward to the next record, because that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to come in and just write some stuff spontaneously together. We did write a tune called Southern Soul for this next record that we wrote together, and that that's like our first collaborative, full collab song.
Yeah. So I definitely want to get into kind of the process of what how you write and all that kind of thing. But before I do that, I want to clear the air on something, David.
Okay.
So we had you and I had an interaction probably. How long ago was this? Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when I owned Muller's Cider House still on University.
Okay.
And at the time, I had only done this festival twice before. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I'd thrown a music and arts festival on University Avenue, and you had asked to be like, oh, I'm in a band, and you'd reached out to see if you can do it. And I turned you down. The reason being because I had no money for the festival to pay anyone, so I needed all favors. So I ended up getting a friend of mine who was in a band at the time that was doing a lot of covers and that sort of thing. So he ended up coming in and helping me out for that. But that's the only reason I turned you down.
Hey,
not because you weren't phenomenal. I felt I couldn't pay you to compensate you for the talent that you have, and so I needed to rely on friends for that thing as I was trying to get it off.
First of all, I don't even remember it.
I was afraid you were going to come in and be like, this fucking asshole.
No,
brings me on the show.
No,
after turning me down
first of all, I don't even remember it. But even if I did, when you've been in this business long enough, I mean, you gotta get a thick skin to stuff, and you got to know that you don't fit everywhere. Yeah. And it's not because you're not good or what you do is invaluable. It just doesn't necessarily fit that venue. It doesn't necessarily fit that vibe for that event or whatever it is. And I learned a long time ago not to take that stuff personally. I mean, every once in a while where you really think you do fit in, and you're like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah.
This
like,
is,
being overlooked.
This is,
but, I mean, there's always those, people have friends, or they have, they've been in the same circles or whatever. So sometimes those people get picked. Yeah, 100%, especially in the booking world and all that. It's who you know, and if you've played places. That's how I'm always a big fan of kind of, if I haven't played a place before, I'll do it. Sometimes I'll do it pro bono. I'll be like, I'll do it free. We'll see how this goes. And then when I rock and melt faces in the audience, then I come back and you can pay me and the band and all that stuff.
You have to earn, especially when you get touring, because, it's one thing to, you play around, central New York, and you kind of get a name for yourself. Or in my case, I'm from Buffalo, so, Western New York. And then you go to, Columbus.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Columbus, Ohio.
Who are you?
I'm going to actually be there tomorrow.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
that was random.
You know, I just went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the first time too. Like, what was it, 3 weeks ago?
Okay.
2 weeks. It's cool, I guess. What was my favorite actually? Because I grew up in New York City, and I've played in like the CBGBs, like the gallery next door, and then my older brother played in CBGBs and stuff. And so the awning, like the old raggedy old awning, is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now. I was like, cool. I saw that thing so many times. Like, you know, after a few, my parents watching? Can you tell if my parents? After a few beers and whatever when I was younger, you know, and then just to see it in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I was like, oh shit, that's it. Like that was one of the cooler things in there. I don't know, some of it's. You know, there's some equipment in there from the big bands and all that stuff, but I'm not into the whole, like, you know, these people are bigger than, you know, except for obviously the music stuff is amazing, and to see some of the history. So touring though, that's actually one of the reasons primarily I wanted to bring you on, because you're one of the first people on the show that does a lot of tours, and I found touring to be an interesting animal.
Oh, gosh.
And I think we're probably similar maybe in age, or at least closer in age than some of the guests I've had. Oh, no, I guess Sean was 40. Was he 42? Something like that. So you're probably closer to my age than I'm 43 now this year.
Well, I got 10 years on you, brother.
All right. So how long have you been doing the touring and the like? I mean, has that been since you've been a wee little David Miller?
No, I didn't even start my music career really full time until I was in my 40s. That was, you know, like my first record, and that whole push was in 2014 with the album Poison Sipped. And I'd started playing out a little bit before that, but not much. I was playing in a band in Buffalo called Dive House Union, and we were kind of, you know, we wrote a bunch of original stuff, but we kind of a jammy kind of funky blues rock band. And and we were a democracy. But I had all these songs that I wanted to record, and never just had the belief in myself, I guess, to really do it. Huh. And that changed. And
well, what changed that, if I may ask?
Oh, near tragedy.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
that'll do it.
Yeah, you know, just going through the most deconstructing part of my life of who I was, what I was about. You know. My wife and I going through some stuff and coming out the other side of it, and the album.
I know nothing about that, David. I know nothing about chaos and all that stuff, and finding yourself again.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and you know that's ultimately, you know, I think that's the greatest journey any human can go through, because you know all of us go through stuff as we're growing up. We adopt ways of thinking about ourselves and the world, and some of it's good and some of it's not. Some of that not so good stuff continues to plague us as adults. And, you know, we probably know some fellow musicians that are amazing people but are leading incredibly self-destructive lives. And they don't necessarily know why. And some of that is just that part of the journey that, you know, they don't have to go through, but you kind of, you know, it would be wonderful if they could, and confront some of that stuff. And because the talent doesn't go away, you know, that's still, all that stuff is still there to help motivate you. But then you can handle some of the other stuff better, you know. So,
what led you to, I guess, so you left that band, I'd assume, right? And then started doing your own project, or was it?
I started doing my own project, and part of the reason is I really wanted to go full-time. I wanted to put a lot of stuff out there. That band was kind of, you know, guys had jobs. You know, we couldn't really do much but weekend warrior stuff, and I wanted to be able to...
That sounds like me, like a few years ago, too.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I just, and then, you know, that band began, you know, it had a few issues. I mean, they were great guys. I'm still friends with them all. Yeah. But we had lost a guitarist like the year before, and he was a major force in the band. And then, you know, with me doing the solo thing, you know, it just didn't vibe with, you know, at least one of the other players too well. And so, you know, that just kind of dissipated. But
they didn't like that. He didn't like that you were doing the...
Yeah, I didn't really like that I was doing the solo thing. I mean, he's all for it now, but at the time he wasn't. And but what ended up happening is I did this record, and I figured I'd just be playing it out. I did the Poison Sip record, and I had this producer who was supposed to do the record, and he couldn't. And then this other producer stepped up, and he introduced me to the Campbell Brothers. And he said, "This is the rhythm section you need for this record." And I was blown away when I met him. And we literally tracked like 10, 11 songs in one day in the Strand Theater. Derek Bennett, Carlton Campbell, and myself, them hearing some of the songs for the first time. And it just was magic. And when we got done with the record, Carlton was like, you need to do something with this. You need to get this out there. And we got a radio promoter, hired a radio promoter, went out, got airplay in 33 countries, hundreds and hundreds of radio stations, reviews, and magazines all over the place. And it was like, people dig this. There's something here,
Yeah, I mean, that blues sound that you got is really like, especially on the Rise album, I listened to a bunch of the songs off there and some of your live performances. I don't know if that was from that album, but that when someone plays blues or just even just rock and roll music that really is honest, I don't think that ever gets old. Like you see even young kids playing, some blues stuff nowadays, and when they're really, you could tell they could feel the blues, I don't think that'll ever get old. And I think your take on it too is a fresh take on it. I feel like I'm listening to it's obviously it's got the blues stuff in there, but you've got, like you were talking about before, the gospel stuff in there, which is amazing, and some funk stuff in there, sure. and what have you. Yeah. So
yeah, we kind of have settled on Southern soul as the style of music.
I could see that. Yeah.
It's so heavily influenced by Memphis, which in and of itself is heavily influenced by blues, country blues, country, gospel, that whole Americana vibe just resonates heavily in Memphis. And then, of course, blues rockers come out of there too, because at the core of all that stuff is,
what's funny about, so I'm guessing you've been down on Beale Street and hung out
performed,
there. Yeah. It's such a weird place to be sometimes because you walk down that street, and for those people that don't know in Memphis, if you've been to Nashville, Broadway. So there's this big row or street where there's a bunch of streets and there's music venues, there's 3 floors of everything. When you go to Memphis and you go to Beale Street, it's a very similar scenario where there's all these music venues down this street, but then the second floors of the building, a lot of them are just the front facade of it. Right. So it's like fake buildings, you know what I mean? Like when you watch the Elvis, did you see the Elvis? What is that called? Biopic or something? Right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Biopic.
He's on the second floor.
Yeah, he's hanging out of there, and I just imagine them filming that. It must have been so much easier because they could get all the camera equipment behind him and light him properly. Right. There's no actual room behind it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I kept looking up oh man, it's so weird that they leave the front facade there. Yeah. So what gave you those influences? I mean, did that come from?
That came from gospel. That I grew up in a very kind of strict Christian evangelical home, and half of my family was Pentecostal, and the other half was kind of more conservative, Wesleyan Methodist. But listening to gospel music and harmonies, definitely on the Pentecostal side, I got introduced to a lot of black gospel music, and a lot of the hymns and things that we did were more spiritual, more spirituals than hymns. And but even song structure and choruses, all that stuff, kind of influences you in terms of songwriting. But that's really what kind of, that's the part that always resonated with me most. And now, listen, I had a kind of a prog rock band in college. I've written just about everything. But what always resonated with me the most was kind of a more of a soul sound. But I never felt comfortable doing that. I always kind of that was one of those things that you approach kind of reverently because I don't want to appropriate.
Yeah.
But these are still things. This is a style of music that still speaks to me and how I feel it. And actually, that's part of the reason why I didn't really go down that path. I mean, besides having a family and feeling like I needed to try to make money and all these other things that you get in your head. Which were more or less just excuses for not, doing what was, the music that was running through me all the time. But But yeah, Poison Sip changed that. I mean, it did that record and then started touring.
So you started touring. So what was, because I know there's probably some people listening that or watching that have never done a tour before. And that first, doing a tour for the first time can be daunting. And I would assume, I don't know if did you have a booking agent for it, or you kind of just booked it yourself?
I had connections. So there was a guy out in the Southwest that I had been introduced to who, could line me up with a few gigs. And so originally it was going to be a lot of gigs. It ended up being a few gigs. Yeah. And so I ended up having to fill a lot of holes.
What were you headlining the tour, or were you supporting anyone on?
We did a little bit of both. So our very first show was supporting Shamika Copeland in Des Moines, Iowa, and in a great room. And that was the first. And then the van broke down, literally driving to the next gig from there to somewhere in Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, and we ended up breaking down in Nebraska somewhere.
How did that go for you?
Oh, well, as well as you can imagine. So excited about this. This was like a 5-week tour that we had planned. And it's not just finding shows. It's also, great musicians that you can bring that can take that time and, off of their schedules, making enough money for it to be worth their while.
Yeah. Was that your full-time band, or was that like Guns for Hire kind of thing?
It was kind of Guns for Hire. I didn't really, Miller and the Other Sinners, I think because I saw the lay of the land, I was setting myself up to have to use a variety of different players because I just knew it wasn't going to work. The first bass player that I had with me we were prepping for the tour was Zuri Appleby, who is now Lizzo's. She's Lizzo's bass player now. Huh. Yeah. And she got a call for Nick Jonas when we were on a run and to go play for Nick Jonas. And so she was out to LA.
Did she leave? Yeah.
Yeah. She had to. Yeah, there wasn't, I would have never.
We're going to play for 10 people in a bar in Des Moines, Iowa. You got to stay here and not.
Not that I could have gotten in her way, but I desperately wanted her to have all of that and more, because she's Zuri Appleby. She's unbelievable. Look her up. She's an amazing, amazing talent. So I immediately had to find another bass player, the original drummer that I
While you were on the road?
No. This was all before the tour, prepping for the tour. And we were doing some small runs, but like weekend runs, but, this big 5-week thing that we were getting ready for. And I also had to find a different drummer because the drummer that I thought could do the 5-week couldn't. So she led me to a drummer, and then when she had to back out, I had to find a bass player. I found an amazing bass player, but at the time could take a semester off of school. Huh. So came out on the road and, did a few months with us between that tour and a few other runs, and that was all it could do. So I kind of set myself up for that. I hated it because I really wanted a team. I wanted guys that we could play together long enough to really vibe. I had an incredible saxophone player who was really with me for the first 2.5 years heavy, Jay Moynihan. As a matter of fact, he was just jamming with us. He was filling in last night. Jay was Buddy Guy's sax player for 9 years. Incredible Hendrix on a saxophone, incredible guitar player.
Jay Moynihan actually sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's the real deal. Huh. And he came out for a few years, but then things changed in his life too, and that he'd done all that touring, and he had a wonderful family that he could be enjoying and not running around with me trying to break another act, and whatever. It's just what happens. And but fortunately, I ran into the cats that I have now, and Isaiah Griffin on drums and Steve Davis on keys and key bass. They've been with me for 4.5 years now. The core is tight, and then we've got a pretty tight horn section. This horn section's been together since the first of the year. The saxophone player has been with me longer. The trumpet player is on my records, and he's subbed in, but now he's from Fairport, actually. Huh. Like Paul Gaspar. And so he's the permanent guy now. And now it's a unit.
We've talked about the last episode we did with Jasek Wade. That's actually going to be out tomorrow when this airs. It would have been last Monday, I guess, that it airs. But they were talking about trying to keep a band together.
Oh yeah,
and how difficult that
Super
was.
difficult.
And I was, I was like, hey, I feel your pain.
Yeah, right.
I've been there, because everyone's got their own lives going on, and everyone's got different, different kind of trajectories or goals or what they want to do with music, and just what they want to do with their lives. And sometimes it's a hobby for some people, and it's something where, if you want to make it a permanent thing in your life, or what's making the money in your life, or what's, I guess, your job, that's a whole different thing than, we're just going to play a couple of gigs in Rochester every month and, and just hang out, or just in your local city and whatever. That's very different than I'm going to go on tour for 5 weeks or a month or a couple of months, or in Metallica's time frame, 5 years or whatever the hell their tour was. 2 years, I think it was.
That
crazy shit.
Yeah.
And travel with like 16, semi trucks or whatever. So I'm guessing you learned a lot of lessons though from that. That first tour, right?
Oh, for sure. And
I'll say one thing too. I think it probably took you up until that time to get the blues fully ingrained in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because I think probably if you had come out with that before that, you probably wouldn't have had the experiences that led you to make that album as good as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know if I ever going to get the blues completely ingrained in me. I mean, it's you live it. It's just life. Lightning Hopkins is the blues is just your truth, right? Well, that doesn't stop until you stop.
Right.
Until
life is suffering, never ending. Suffering and pain.
Welcome to Nihilism 101. This is the new nihilist podcast.
It breeds such like great, deep music, though. I think every musician or songwriter in particular is kind of tortured in some way emotionally.
Absolutely.
or just, I talked about on the I think the last episode or the one before, like shaking your fist at God almost, like for what the hell are you doing to us down here? And music is a way of like singing about that.
Absolutely.
It like frees you of the emotional burden of it. It gets it into a song that other people can sing.
Well, it's there's different ways to work your shit out, and for any artist, whether it's visual arts or whatever your medium is, for us as musicians, it's through these chords that we play and these notes we sing, these words we write. And that's kind of our therapy. It's a way to kind of exercise that demon, if you would, and get it out of your lungs.
So, I guess we can kind of transition. I know I was gonna ask you about the lessons first about touring, because I know a lot of young musicians that are going to do their first tour. There's a lot to it, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, and some of it's basics. I mean, you gotta figure out how to budget some stuff because. And you got to plan for the worst. And the best advice, the first piece of real great advice that I got was from a blues artist by the name of Johnny James, who used to tour all over the U.S. And Johnny goes, I asked him, I said, what's your greatest piece of advice you can give me? And he goes, check your oil.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, that's probably pretty bad.
So,
tire pressure,
right? All that stuff, right? That's what's all implied in that is just But there's certainly
make sure you have your guitar in the car when the gig is like 5 hours away.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yes, Allie's laughing. I drove like it was like 2 hours away and drove all the way. Everything else packed in the car because I was bringing the PA and all that.
Yeah.
Forgot to put my guitar in.
Yeah, I think I did that once.
Luckily, someone had a guitar, or their dad had a guitar or whatever, and brought it to us. Yeah. So check your oil, huh? Those little things.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to recognize that these folks. I mean, you might have some amazing experiences, but if you're going to places where you've never played, they don't know who you are. You have to, just because some folks know you back here in Rochester or Buffalo, you got to earn everything out there. Yeah. No one owes you anything, and I think that's a big part of it. But just budgeting. Thinking about the fact that everybody's going to need to eat, everybody's going to need to sleep. You're going to have gas costs. Right now, we're not doing as extensive touring because touring is a little bit more expensive. We're doing shorter runs, stuff that's a little bit more manageable right now. It's more targeted. At first, it was a little bit more Wild West. And I think there's a time for that, but you have to plan for that. You have to know what you're able to lose. You know, what can you lose on the road, money-wise? You know, what are you willing to, you know, if you got a vehicle that's going to make it, because if not, you're going to put some money into that sucker on the road. So things like that. But, you know, take in the sights, man. I think for me, the best part of touring is that hum of the road. It's coming to someplace new. It's, sitting down and eating whatever is like amazing in that area.
Waffle House, right?
You gotta do. You've got to do. You've got to do it. It's got to happen. We have some good Waffle House stories.
Yeah, I think everyone, well, good and bad, probably. A little bit of both.
Yeah,
entertaining. You get the dichotomy of.
Let's say entertaining stories. Waffle Houses.
What's your favorite Waffle House food item? Would you say?
Oh.
And for those in the Northeast, it's a little bit difficult because it's not too many up here. They're starting to like creep up, though. I don't know if you noticed that as you drive on some of the.
I think they self-replicate.
You know, do they? They're like a
hermaphroditic.
Yeah, like one of those snakes when you cut them in half. You know what I mean?
Now
there's two of them.
I think they're kind of like that. Yeah, no. When I'm there, I go for that traditional, you know, eggs and waffle combo slam thing, whatever they call it.
This is pro information you're hearing from a couple of touring musicians. So what do you put in your waffles? I like a little maybe some cinnamon. Chips kind of deal.
Oh, you go. Yeah, you go in.
Yeah,
you go in. I just straight up.
Just straight waffle syrup.
Yeah. No,
I like to make them get a little creative too.
No, that's smart. That's smart. I haven't
chef it up. You know?
I think the folks that I've had making my stuff, I don't know that I'd want to put that extra burden on them. But you get that eggs.
That's right. I like the way you phrase that too.
Get the eggs going.
Put that extra burden
with
on
it,
them.
and some tea. And I'm good. So that's all I need is a little waffle and syrup.
So that leads me to because those ordinary things like the Waffle House and what have you. When it comes to writing songs, sometimes people write them about the mundane things in their lives, and I think I watched something from Taylor Swift today. Earlier, I don't know how that came up, but something from Taylor Swift. And she had written some song. She was listening to some guy on the phone with his girlfriend on the other side of the room, and his girlfriend was yelling at him on the phone, and she said she could hear him or hear her yelling at him through the phone. And then after he had gotten off the phone, because he had called something about he hadn't called her in 10 minutes. He had called her in 15, so she was angry about the fact that he had called in 15 versus 10. And then she wrote, I guess, the first couple of lines of a song or whatever. From that, it was like this inspiration that I don't know the Taylor Swift song itself, but she said the line in the song that she had written. So when you come up with a song, how does that typically happen? I mean, is it something where you sit down and you say, I'm going to write something now because we've got an album, or does it typically just kind of come out of somewhere?
I usually never, I can't think of a time that I've sat down to write something. Where I get the majority of my ideas, either lyrically or groove or chord progression idea or whatever, is when I'm driving. And there's something about the road that's I usually don't have music on, and I'm just kind of letting stuff come in from the ethos, and it might be inspired by, I might see us, you don't always know, our subconscious is always working, right? And I might have seen something, or there might have been something stewing back there that the road just kind of, there's a Zen moment where that's allowed to come to the front, and so I don't know sometimes, but sometimes I hear a conversation or a thought, and I can if there's some sort of inspiration, I can put myself. Probably the closest thing that I can say to intentional songwriting is I won't necessarily think about writing a song, but I'll think about an experience. Like there's a tune called Juke Jive It that's on Rise. And Juke Jive It was written when I was on the 33 on my way down to the Tudor Lounge to play with the Willie Haddeth Band, and they would have a guest artist every once in a while. And I was on my way, and when I first wrote it, I'm like, I'm back with Willie and the band. Back with Willie and the band. And I had a groove, and I started writing that. Head downtown, bottom, my lady and me.
Right? Are you writing it on your guitar, or you're kind of just singing
I'm driving.
a melody? And...
I'm like driving, and as it's coming to me, I've got my phone, and I'm putting stuff in. And when I get there, I got a couple verses and a chorus. And I'm like, hey, guys, I got this idea. You want to do it? And they're like, sure. I said, it's pretty easy. I can show. And I said, but let me go out for the second break and write a couple more verses. So now the whole thing's flowing, right? So now it's not, it's not hard to get back in that space, and finished a couple things. And that's actually how the song was originally written. And then I rewrote it after that night called Juke Jiving with the band. So it didn't matter.
So is that like a typical way that you write? Like you kind of come up with typical. The melody first, or
it can be. It doesn't. Sometimes it's a lyrical idea, a phrase, a thought, and then as I'm repeating the thought, a melody comes to it or a groove comes to it. I'd say probably more often than not, they come together in a weird way, and you're probably. I think you're going to relate to this because I've talked to tons of songwriters, and they always have this. But you get this idea. And sometimes you use like dummy lyrics, fake lyrics.
You just start mumbling.
You're mumbling stuff. You're just saying stuff, and then you'll say something. And when you're working it out, you're like, "That's supposed to be there." And sometimes you're trying to then figure out what the fuck this song's about.
Yeah,
that happened to us. We were actually driving through the hills of Pennsylvania, and Laura was asleep, and I was coming up over the hills. We were going into West Virginia, and you're up and there's nothing, right?
Yeah.
You're up in the mountains and there's nothing. And I got this little, Sally's got a bullet in her pocket. Where'd she go and get that from?
Huh.
And I'm like, who the fuck is Sally? And why does she have this bullet?
That's right. That is a question I'm asking myself as you said that line, is where the hell did this bullet come from, Sally?
Right. And so then I'm like, writing the song is discovering the story. It's like I'm trying to do an archaeological dig of some sort or historical dive.
I just made eye contact with Thalia over there because I said, I think it was on the second episode or with Nate. I was talking about like where, and that's generally a question I ask songwriters too, like where do you think it comes from? Because it's almost like, and I had said this, it's almost like you're remembering it, or you're trying to document it versus you writing it. Like I'll write a song sometimes, all the lyrics, and at the end of writing it and all the lyrics and everything, I'm like, I don't know what this means, but then like 4 or 5 months later, I'll listen to the song. I'm like, oh, that's what like it. It seems to be coming from somewhere that's
well. So I don't know how heavy we want to get, but I do think
very heavy,
I think that there's. I mean, listen, we're all connected at that Planck level, and I do not subscribe to a religion anymore. Even though I grew up as a Christian, I pretty much see myself as an agnostic, atheist kind of dude. And but that doesn't mean that I don't think that there aren't mysteries, and I don't think that there's things that we can't explain yet. And there's certainly cellular memory. There's a memory inside of humanity that's, I think, related to this collective consciousness. Some of that is, again, your subconscious that's hearing things and picking up on stories and stuff's running around, but it's not in the forefront of your mind, and that bounces around back there and comes out, and it feels like a strange thought, but it's really not. It's just a hidden thought. It was something that was back in there that took a while to produce an articulate expression that your conscious self could recognize.
Yeah.
But I do think, we're definitely part of a greater story. And I think, there's certain things that we write about that are certainly, we don't have to be too crazy about it. We're talking about humanity. I mean, we've all experienced loss in different ways. We've all experienced being hurt. We've all experienced as being, having that joyful moment or a reunion of a moment. We've shared these common things that we can talk about, and they feel real because, we've all been there in some way, shape, or form, right? But then there's times where I've had people come up to me and go, "That was me." So it's something deeper. They're not just connecting with a superficial experience. They connected to something in there, and maybe you didn't even mean it when you wrote it, because I've had that happen a couple times. But they found something in there that really, when you looked at it from their eyes, it seemed prophetic. You know what I mean? It seemed beyond, what it seemed like maybe what somebody sitting over a table with a glass ball might be able to tell them. But I think a lot of that comes out of that deep, collective consciousness.
Yeah, and I think that that can be like with the Beatles and the bands back then. I think that's why you had so many people, or not, I guess not so many people, but the occasional psychopath too that was like that, literally like what you just said. That's me. He's singing about me. He wrote that song about me, and that worries me sometimes.
Well, we bring all our baggage.
Not that I'm comparing myself to or you to the Beatles or John Lennon's songwriting.
We're all songwriters.
Yeah,
we're all songwriters.
But it's pretty.
That is hilarious.
Is that John Lennon?
Trying
to talk. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. I don't know if that got caught on camera, but the top just popped off of that can there. So you usually come with kind of some sort of a melody or some sort of an idea for the song,
a vibe, a feel, a theme.
Do you when you start to write? Because I've noticed myself kind of doing this more and more now. Make a conscious attempt to make it almost more vague. Sometimes I'll write and I have a very specific experience I'm thinking about while I'm writing, but I'll try to make it more vague so that it can hit more people, so to speak. And I don't do that often, because most of the songs that I write that I feel are really good tend to just kind of come out of me. I don't have a say in it; it just happens.
I feel that. I feel
but the occasional song I'll write and it'll be about a particular experience, and I try and leave out the specifics of it. And I wonder if other songwriters do that too. I'll try and purposely, like change the names of the innocent or whatever it's.
Well, I think probably yes. I probably tried to change the names a little bit, but
that's right. The names and the faces have been changed for their.
Yeah, but I don't know that I think sometimes I'm trying to word it. So for me, I guess my sweet spot on a song is fresh but familiar. I want something that sounds new, even though it's not new, because listen, there's only so many chords put together so many times. Or as U2 said, all the books, there's no new books in the house, there's no new ideas in the house, and all the books have been read, something like that, right?
Yeah.
That I try to, instead of saying, your eyes shine, or something that just seems like that's been said like a bazillion times.
Yeah.
I'll try to word it in a different way. I'll try to say, well, how else could I,
I will say that's bullshit too. The U2 thing about every song has been. I don't think that's true. I think that even U2 now is in Las Vegas, that giant dome thing that exists.
Sure.
Like holy shit! I don't know if you've seen them.
I saw the videos
of them playing in there.
Yeah,
that's fucking new. I mean, it's
a new experience for sure. But they're playing the same old songs in there.
That is true.
It's just like putting the library in a bigger, cool building.
So. One of the things that I've always wanted to do, and there's one here in town, but it costs quite a bit of money to rent it, but I wanted to put on a show in the planetarium.
Oh, wow.
And you can do that, right? And not only can you do that, you can have them design a show, like a star thing and video thing, specifically for that. Experience
cool.
and then put on a show there, but it's kind of expensive, and the cheaper kind of times to rent like expensive to the point of like you're gonna have to charge like
a few
$100 a ticket or something to make it worthwhile. But I've almost wanted to do it and lose money on it just because it would be such a cool thing to do, which kind of reminds me of that big dome thing that U2 is doing, But I think that like Einstein, right? Everyone thought, okay, we kind of know all the ideas that are there, and then all of a sudden Einstein pops up and things change, right? So maybe there are things out there, or songs that haven't been written, or chord progressions that haven't been done yet, and haven't been,
Yeah. Well,
And it just takes a David Miller to pull him out of the ether and bring him onto the Songwriters Couch.
Yeah. No pressure.
That's right. So, I guess from a seasoned songwriter, seasoned album maker, you've probably been in the studio a whole bunch of times. I think that you could probably, or you'd be one of the better people to speak about, I guess, kind of studio etiquette, recording stuff. Like what are your not suggestions, but like if someone was going into the studio for the first time, they've written a song,
Gotcha.
they want to do something. I mean, tips or things they should know before they get into the studio.
I think, generally, the more prepared you can be going into the studio is always good. Even if you abandon the plan, you have a plan. You know that you're rehearsed. If you're not just going in there, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I think it's also a legitimate session to go in with nothing and come up with something. I mean, but that's your plan, and know that it's going to be loose. Know that you're going to put more money into it. You're probably not going to get as much done, in terms of output, but you don't know, but I think in general, for most people, like you said, you have a song, you're going to the studio, be prepared, go in, be rehearsed, be ready to go, and work with your engineer, because these guys have done this. We're talking about Brian. Brian, to me, is almost like a co-producer on every record. Yeah. He's definitely going to have credits on this one because of all the advice that he's given me along the way. I mean, to trust those guys to be able to, just really guide you. They've been doing this with a lot of folk.
Yeah.
That you giving them that courtesy and that respect, they're going to help you.
Do you generally go in and record full band? Like playing it live, kind of like back in the day, or do you generally go in like track drums, track individual?
I try to track the rhythm section along with, guitar and vocal as guide to get the feel, so we get the foundational feel right. That's how we did this record. I went and pre-produced everything, so I even tracked fake drums and everything to get arrangements all kind of set up. But when we actually went to track stuff, we were doing basically bass and scratch keys, drums, scratch guitar, scratch vocal, and now
and then you go back and
start to play over the top, with whatever, and work on arranging some of that other
click track or no click track.
We use the click. We absolutely use the click.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays you can't not use the click, right?
Well, especially with working the way that we did. If we were working just together, in a room that we could all be playing together, we might not always have to use a click for that. But when you want to do overdubs and stuff like that, and the way that we were working, where, I would bring the horns in 2 months after we had, done the rhythm tracks, it just made life a lot easier. But, we messed with that too. We messed with the click so that, we pushed and pulled and made it feel more live, where it made sense,
So let's do this. We're going to go ahead and move into you playing something.
Oh, okay.
But before we do that,
okay,
I want you to give a bunch of shameless plugs to all the stuff that you need to give shameless plugs to shows coming up. So this won't be released until next Monday. So just keep that in mind if you're going to plug a show that's upcoming in the next week.
I feel like I should have had the hottest wing right now, right? If you all know what I'm talking about.
For what is that show called? Hot Ones? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So I've done that with a bunch of friends. Have you guys ever done that? Like had that challenge at home?
No.
So I have a bunch of hot sauces. One of them is Buncy's. What is it called? Da Bomb. Oh, it's awful.
Oh yeah,
it tastes terrible.
Yeah, no doubt.
Terrible.
No doubt.
It's not a good hot sauce.
Gotcha.
But that I could see why people struggle with it. It's like this. It's like drinking the extract, like just the egg. It's just no flavor to it.
Oh.
It's just awful heat or whatever.
That sounds like
terrible. But anyway,
terrible.
So plugs.
What, So probably the two big things that I want to plug is November 4th. We're going to be at Fanatics Pub down in Lima with the full band. We're going to have a killer time there. It's a great room. If you've never been down there before, the place just keeps growing. They just added an outdoor stage. And then on the 10th, on Veterans Day, we are going to be at Sticky Lips. Never played Sticky Lips before, but we're going to have the band there, full 5-piece band as well. So those are kind of two shows that you can kind of come and, you can kind of come and see.
The one with the red light on it there.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Sorry. See, I don't do TV. I don't know this shit. But yeah, come out and see us November 4th, Fanatics, and the 10th at Sticky Lips out in Rochester.
In Henrietta, right?
In Henrietta. Sticky Lips in Henrietta.
That stage is really cool. I've played there. I don't know about the sound system, because last time I played there, they're like, oh, well, we're not going to have the sound guy there. You just do your own sound. So I had to bring my own sound system. And I'm like, but you have a great PA there and all that? All right. But this is a long time ago. Yeah. The venue's cool. It's a little weird because of the way that the audience is situated.
Yeah, I know.
There's tables that the chairs are facing each other.
Yeah.
It's a weird way to have a crowd in the audience. Yeah, but anyway, we're talking very, very local, local here. So let's do this. Is this the song that you're going to play here? Is this going to be something off of the new album?
This is a song that I'm working on a solo series that I think are going to be 6 songs each or something like that. And I've got about 30 songs that are in various states of finished for that. This is one that I'm going to be adding to that because, you talk about how things inspire a song. We had some really, really close friends who lost their oldest son, and he was only 34 when he passed, and he passed very suddenly. Cancer took him quick. And I was thinking about them, and I was thinking, man, what do I want to say to my kids? I got 2 boys, and I started writing this song of all this, father advice I want to take. And then I thought, this is just lame and stupid and terrible. And I thought, man,
very cats in the cradle.
Yeah. And I said, all I really want to do is I just want to tell them I love them. I just want to tell them that they mean the world to me. That's really all I want to say. And how can I say that? And this song came out. It's called Words and Notes and Strings. I hope that I go way ahead of you. It's selfish just to think it, but I do. A parent shouldn't bury in the ground a song that haunts, keep on sticking around. You're my sweetest sound. All I have is words, notes, and strings. I haven't built a treasure room with chests of shiny things. Oh, you're my heartbeat rhythm. You're the melody I sing. You're my words, my notes, my strings. I hope I live to see your life unfold. But there's no telling what tomorrow holds. I only pray to any God who hears. Long after I'm gone, you'll still be here. Sweet music to my ears. All I have is words and notes and strings. I haven't built a treasure room with chests of shiny things. Oh, you're my heartbeat rhythm. You're the melody I sing. You're my words, my notes, my strings. Oh, you're my words, my notes, my strings. I haven't built a treasure room with chests of shiny things. You're my heartbeat rhythm. You're the melody I sing. You're my words, my notes, my strings. Thank you, Cleveland.
David Miller, everybody. David Miller. So what was the name of that song again? One more time.
Words and Notes and Strings.
Words and Notes and Strings. And I'll tell you what, we've gotten an hour, and I haven't been able to even pick the surface of what I'd like to talk to you about. So maybe we can schedule another one of these.
Well, yeah, as long as you're
after the album's done and
keep
you want
providing liquor and stuff.
Oh yeah. So. Well, again, that's a good transition there. David's been schooled in the media, so thank you again to our sponsors, Seed and Stone and Lucky Buzz Meadery here. They gave us these cool glasses and the creamsicle.
We'll have to see if we can get 3-Quart Bourbon to give you a little bit.
Yeah. I think they
sponsor me. Maybe we can get them involved in this.
I have drank their bourbon and I find it delicious. So
all right. Well, we'll talk about that
and
too.
I do like my whiskeys and my bourbon.
All right.
So.
All right.
and I've played in Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky, of all places. Oh, yeah. What a lovely town! I love Bowling Green, Kentucky. Have you been there?
I've been through it, but I haven't been
yeah,
there.
That's a lot of people. I think I'm not going to talk too much about it. But it's a great town, good music town. I love Bowling Green, Kentucky. But David Miller, thank you so much. Let's give one more plug here. Where can we find your music?
You can see Miller and the Other Sinners.com. Also Facebook.com/Miller and the Other Sinners, Instagram.com/Miller and the Other Sinners, and check us out, follow us.
Beautiful. So hey, everyone watching, listening, subscribe to the thing, comment down below. Best way you can support us is that, but also we have like a patron program. So if you want to, give us a little money every month, you can do that as well. And if you're a sponsor out there and you want to sponsor the podcast, we're still looking for you guys. So we've got another sponsor that's kind of semi lined up. So we'll be announcing that maybe in the next month or so. So we'll see. And lots of exciting actual guests coming up too. I know David is the pinnacle of our guests here so far, and superstar here on the.
Got to up your budget.
That's right. That's right. No, don't put yourself. Don't put yourself down. Don't self-deprecate, David. You're a rock star here on the couch. So I appreciate having you on, man. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to everyone that watches and listens and does that. And if you have anyone that's a songwriter that you feel should be on the show, please let us know that. David, I'll reach over in this awkward way that being on camera and having microphones shoved in your face is. I really appreciate it, and thank you for hanging here. I know you guys got dinner coming up here.
Camera.
Where are you guys going? Anywhere good?
I don't know where we're going.
Somewhere delicious?
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Steaks or something, or pizza? Or
that all sounds good.
All right, yeah. But thank you again for being on the show. Keep an eye out for David Miller if he's in your town. Go out and see him because I can guarantee it'll be a good time. And stay safe out there.